Today we profile Captain Eugene Cernan. Gene Cernan. He grew up in Chicago, attended Purdue, and ultimately became a Navy pilot. In 1963, NASA selected 14 men in its third group of astronauts. Captain Gene Cernan was one of them. Ultimately, Gene became the second American to ever walk in space for a little over 2 hours. Jack, you have to realize, you're going 18,000 miles an hour hanging on a rope. Everything they told me, it didn't work. For 60 minutes, this is 360 degrees. For 30 minutes, it's negative 360 degrees. It took 12 and a half minutes to get across America. Jack, you look down and you see the Mississippi River. And you turn your head to the left and you see where it's starting in northern Minnesota. And you follow it. And you watch it going out the Gulf of Mexico. Then you look forward and you see the Atlantic Ocean all at once. Jack, at one point I figured out how to take 3 steps while I had crossed the Gulf of Mexico. Friends, Gene Cernan is the 12th and the last man to walk on the moon. The 12th and the last. Jack, I spent 75 hours on God's porch on the moon, looking at the earth, which from the moon is about that wide, with an awful lot of blue, a lot of white, and a little green, inhabited by 7 billion of us. But from up there, Jack, you can't tell where Uruguay ends and Bolivia begins. From up there, we're all God's people, one people. 75 hours on God's porch. In 2010, I had the great honor of being in Pensacola with 12 people to have dinner with Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan, the first and the last man on the moon. And Cernan, during the show, had told me a story about Neil Armstrong, who was very quiet. He was an engineer, a professor, whereas Cernan was much more outspoken. And I asked Mr. Armstrong, I said, is it a true story? And he said, yes. Everybody knows what Neil Armstrong said when he came down the steps. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. But then, friends, when he was going back up the steps, up the ladder, he said something else. And NASA in Houston said, Neil, what did you just say? His answer, nothing. Well, we heard something. Must be garble. I didn't say nothing. We heard good luck or something. No. And so for nearly 30 years, he would never admit. And he said, finally, they're both deceased. I can now admit. When I was a young kid outside Dayton growing up, we were playing wiffle ball in the backyard one day. And a kid hits the ball over the fence into the Gorski's backyard. And I jump the fence, and I go get the ball, and it's right under the Gorski's bedroom window. And I pick up the ball, and I hear Mrs. Gorski say, I won't have sex with you till that kid next door walks on the moon. And so Neil Armstrong, friends, as he's walking up the ladder to leave, he said, good luck, Mr. Gorski. As Gene Cernan was leaving the moon, this is what he said. Bob, this is Gene. and I'm on the surface, and as I take man's last step from the surface, back home for some time to come, but we believe not too long into the future, I'd like to just say what I believe history will record, that America's challenge of today has forged men's destiny of tomorrow. And as we leave the moon at Taurus Litro, we leave as we come, and God willing, as we shall return, with peace and hope for all mankind. Godspeed the crew of Apollo 17. I asked him to write his philosophy of life. Dear Jack, family, credibility, and time, the most important possessions we have. Protect and make good use of all three. Sincerely, Eugene A. Cernan. P.S. Always shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land somewhere among the stars. That's the story of Captain Eugene Cernan. Thanks for watching. Until we meet again, please remember, with God, anything is possible. Spo.